Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fiume, founder of I9 Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. On today's show, I have the CEO of AAAC Wildlife Removal, Josie Moss, and president of the company, Brian Moss. Guys, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the show. Hey, AAAC Wildlife Removal. This is going to be by far the most unique franchise concept I have ever had on in nearly 2 years of doing the show. Josie, I'm going to start with you. I think we know what AAAC Wildlife Removal all is, but I've got to hear the story. I understand you guys are not the founders. You guys were originally franchisees. Tell me how you guys got started in the business.
Sure. So Brian was in the Army. We married, and whenever basically his time got close to retiring, we started looking at different things that we were going to do. We had 3 very small children at the time, so it wasn't like we could just retire and work at Walmart or, do something fun, I guess. So we knew that we needed another career, and so we started looking into this. Brian's always been an avid outdoorsman, growing up in Southwest Louisiana. And so at the time, we were living on a military base, ran into a gentleman who actually worked for a company that did wildlife trapping and removal, and we just knew instantly that was going to be a great fit for Brian, outdoorsman, things like that. He knew he wasn't ready for a desk job. He didn't do a desk job in the military. And so started inquiring about it, came across the franchise at the time was All Animal Control, founded by Mark Dotson in 1995 out of Denver, Colorado. And we decided, hey, this sounds like a great opportunity. Reached out to Mark and it seemed like a perfect fit. So we bought our first office in Louisville, Kentucky while Brian was still in the military. He had a job towards the end of his career that allowed him to still, to do something other parts of his day, if you will. And so we did. We purchased the franchise, went to training in West Virginia with Mark, and the rest is kind of history, as they say.
And so, Brian, did you have experience in trapping and wildlife removal before getting involved in the franchise?
Yeah, I grew up in Southwest Louisiana down in Sulphur, and my whole youth, all I did was hunt, fish, trap, everything. So it was, nothing new. Just doing it on houses was a little new.
Right.
It comes second nature, I believe.
Okay. All right. Very cool. All right. So if I understand the story right, guys, you purchased the business, you purchased the entire company from Mark, I guess, right? In 2014?
Correct. Yes.
Because you were franchisees for a bit.
Yes. So once we started our Louisville office, did that for a little while. And then I'm from Southeast Texas. He's from Louisiana. So we realized we wanted to be closer to home. We had a daughter who was 4 months old at the time. So we wanted to be closer to family. So we sold that Louisville office and we moved to this area and opened up the Houston market.
Wow. Okay. What are we removing and trapping? What are the most common things where animals were removing from people's homes?
Well, in this part of Texas and in the Houston area, it really varies by time of year. Right now it's springtime. We're getting a lot of babies. So squirrels, coons, possums, we're getting skunks, that sort of thing. Rats are constant year round. Also with the spring, with the spring brings on beaver, a lot of nutria, alligators start getting hot.
We do a lot of bats right now.
Bats are springtime also. So down in our part of Texas, year round, just about every animal you can imagine, we do get.
This is fascinating. You've got 21 franchise locations. You're in 14 states, and you've been a franchisor since 2014. I'm curious to know, what was life like when you first started franchising? Because I understand, like Brian, this was second nature to you doing the business, but to be a franchisor, a completely different business. And I know, Josie, that's probably your wheelhouse as being the CEO of the company. What was it like when you first franchised?
So we had a huge learning curve. I'd never worked, I never knew the inner workings of a franchise, never even realized that the regulations that went behind that. I knew we signed an FDD and a franchise agreement to join, but had no idea of the legal and the logistical part of the backside of that. So I had to learn a lot of that and found a great franchise attorney, and he taught me a lot. And then the second aspect of that is when you sell a franchise, obviously, as you know, the biggest thing is the training and the support. The reason that's so beautifully melded with what Brian had done for the last 22 years in the Army was because he was a first sergeant, right? So he had trained, he had all of that knowledge. So I had a degree in business and marketing. And so once we learned the franchise side of it, the FDD, the legal stuff that went in with that, the registration states and all of the things that go with that. That was kind of the largest part of it. Other than that, it came pretty easy because we were passionate about what we were doing. We'd been doing it in the Houston market for many years, doing it very well. We were the top producing office for several, and still are. Sometimes the months, another office kind of, we are in competition. But once we figured that part of it out, the training part of it was so easy to Brian just because it's what he had done for so long.
So did you inherit franchisees then when you became the franchisor?
Yes, we did.
And how many franchises were around, do you think, when you first started?
At the time that we bought from Mark Dotson, I believe there were probably close to, 17 or 18 at the time. We then grew it because we added so many offices to close to like 26 or 27. The reason that number has declined since then is the what we call the OGs, right, that were in under Mark.
Sure.
A lot of those guys
Retired.
They were already in their 50s back in 2014. So we lost a handful of them that were coming up on like their 7-8 year mark when we bought in 14. And so, and then of course we rebranded in 2017. And so we're kind of did a little reset there.
Nice. So what was the reset like? Because when you came in as the franchisor now, you have a total different level of responsibility, right, than just running your own location. What were some of the important things that you felt like, okay, we need to make some changes here and we want to improve this brand?
Well, the first thing was the training and the support. Right. So we felt like we learned a lot. We taught ourselves a lot in the beginning when we came in. So we knew when we sold new offices and they came in, that training and support were going to be crucial. So we offer up our location for training all throughout the year. As a matter of fact, just not even 4 or 5 weeks ago, one of our offices, they send their office staff here. They train with us anytime. And so the level of training and support ongoing 365 days a year is kind of what we differentiated ourselves with, as well as incorporating a new brand. So we went from All Animal Control, which was textbook yellow pages back in the day, to now AAAC Wildlife. Brian actually hand drew the new logo. It's just something to come be.
That was a neat story.
Yeah.
Let me jump in here. The logo that we used to have, I really didn't like it because it was cartoonish and plain Jane. It was dated. So we had some people working for us, and they had a company that was trying to come up with a new logo, and they just kept drawing these logos and sending them to me, and I was just kind of frustrated with them. Finally, I just took a napkin and I just sketched it, what I wanted the logo to look like, and I told the guy, I said, send it to your people, have them clean that up, send it back. And that was exactly what we wanted. And I was like, there you go, I did my own logo there.
At the time that we bought, there was no proprietary software across the group. There was no designated marketing team that actually supported each office with their Google ads, their Google My Business. We basically took it from like the horse and carriage, right? The horse and buggy, and we kind of got it to the Ford. So we leaped over there.
You guys legitimized this business, right? I mean, you brought a level of professionalism to it and putting some parameters around it. I guess probably the question that the entire audience that's watching this is probably thinking is, who's becoming a franchisee of your system? Are they folks with wildlife background or business people? Who are these folks that are buying franchises from you guys?
We've got a little of everything. We've got contractors. We've got college graduates. We've got police officers that get tired of that. We've got just a multitude of people.
Yeah, venture capitalists who are coming in wanting to buy several offices.
Military, prior military. There's quite a few of us. Prior military. I'm partial to veterans.
We have a strong veteran
antidepressants.
Yeah, in our group, just I've explained this before on another interview we did many years ago. Is when you come out of the military, you're used to following a system, right? You know what time to get up and what to wear, and so veterans, they go right into this system beautifully because they want that support. You know, not that they want to be told what to do by any means, but they are just used to following a system, and it works.
That's fantastic. Was there a pivotal moment when you guys were running this business as a franchisor and thought, we're really onto something here? We've got something special with some great potential.
Absolutely.
I have a great story for that. So I guess it kind of goes back to when we were franchisees. If they in the old show, picture it, Sicily, right? Remember the old Golden Girls? So here we are. We're in Fort Knox, Kentucky. Brian's exiting the military, getting ready to transition now into civilian life. We have 3 little babies. I might have even still been pregnant at the time, but we had 2 little boys, and Molly was on the way. And we started this franchise, and we turned on the phone. And I'll be honest with you, I grew up very rural. My dad figured it out. Same with him. You had a raccoon, your daddy went and shot it. That was it. You didn't hire somebody to come and take care of it. So I kind of was like, is this really going to work? But hey, it's my husband's dream. We're going to do it. And the phone rings, and I answer the phone. And at the time it was AL Animal Control. This is Josie. And it was somebody on the other end of the line. They lived in Louisville, Kentucky. They had just moved from California. They lived on 3 acres. Okay. And he said, we have 3 acres and a pond, and we've got a snake and a turtle in the pond.
Okay.
I'm thinking, that sounds like dinner. Right?
You're like, and?
Yeah.
Snakes and turtles.
Well, that's what you would have eaten growing up. So anyway, I couldn't believe it. I threw out this price. I'm winging it at this point, right? Remember,
you have no idea. Like, what do I even charge, right?
No, because the support back then wasn't, what we give today is a whole lot different. We have designated price lists and strategies and all this. Mm-hmm. And I threw out this number. I'm like, $300. We're on our way to Walmart. The kids are in the bag. We're going to McDonald's to eat in Walmart. Okay. And I tell Brian, I'm faking it till I make it. Right. And so I'm like, yeah, absolutely. We can take care of that for you. Pretend clicking on a computer.
Right.
We hang up. Brian's like, I'm like, we've got to go get a turtle and a snake. So you know what? We went into Walmart. Brian got this net thing, and it rolls up there. $350 later, I knew right then. I'm like, this is it.
Guys, we will pay anything to get snakes removed from our yard.
Yes.
It's never too much money. Like, that is it. We will mortgage our home.
Where you live.
Exactly. I live in Tampa, Florida. We got plenty of snakes around here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Although I guess black racers aren't so bad. But yeah, no, but we've got our fair share here in Tampa.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's when I knew that there's a job out there that a lot of people don't know how or don't want to do. And that's when I knew we were going to be successful.
That is brilliant. I could see that. I could see me being a customer and be willing to pay too much money to have Brian come and remove whatever it is. Brian, what's the craziest thing you've ever had to remove?
Well, it just depends on what your idea of crazy is.
Okay. All right. I realize that.
12.5-foot alligator might be crazy to some. Skunks. I've caught an animal. It's called a kikachu. It's a South American honey bear. It looks like a monkey.
Okay.
They're not native here.
Oh yeah.
Did you know what it was when you walked up to it?
Oh sure. I had no idea. I thought it was a monkey.
Like, what is this thing?
I'd never seen one before, and when I got there, it was in these people's garage, and it jumped on my shoulder, and I'm like, okay. They paid me, and I jumped in the truck, and it was sat on my shoulder and ran around the inside of my truck till I got home. My kids played with it for a little while, and it was pretty good, and we got it to where it needed to go. But it was neat. So there's a lot of.
I'll tell you one quick story. I get a call one night, and the guy's like, "We have a cobra in our hotel."
No, I am not doing the cobra thing.
Listen,
no.
Well, let me tell you something real fast. There's a snake that's called a hognose snake. Very, very normal, the snake around here. And what it does is
it's normal, Josie. The snake is normal.
Yeah, and it flares its neck to look like a cobra.
It does.
So I get, but it's harmless. I mean, it's non-venomous. So I get this call all the time. We've got a cobra in our backyard. I'm like, sure you do. So this guy calls. There's a cobra in the hallway of the old historic Rice Hotel in Houston. And it is, it's loose. We need you to come get it. So I tell Brian, I think we got a hognose. When a hognose gets scared, it'll flare its neck. It's a defense mechanism.
I said, take a picture and send it to me.
So they did. And it was
like, it's a cobra.
It was a albino
Reticulated.
monocle
Reticulated.
cobra. So what happened was there was a very eccentric man that lived in this hotel. They had converted it to like condominiums. And he got mad because he was being evicted and releases the cobra in the hallway as revenge on the apartment community or whoever.
He's the world's greatest trapper.
Yeah, Q Bryant.
There you go. Q Brian.
Cobra. And
That was creepy.
it was very creepy. We put in this container. The same week, a pet store owner, an exotic pet store owner in Austin, Texas, was transporting one, and it got out in his car and bit him.
Oh,
He was gone within, like, I think they say 3 minutes. It's how long it takes to die, right? And there's no antivenom because we don't have cobras here. And so anyway, that to me is one of the craziest things we ever got.
So it just depends on what's crazy.
That's pretty crazy.
You know, if
I'd say so.
If someone calls me to catch Sasquatch, I'll put him in the truck. So,
He could ride shotgun, right? Just got to just buckle him up.
Actually, Sancho works for me now. We do have my franchise development officer, Vincent. We bought a custom suit, and so when we travel to job fairs and career fairs around the area at military posts, we'll throw it on, and people will look at it and go, "Man, that's nuts," you know. And
that is great.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So.
It sounds like a lot of fun. Brian, all right, you walk up to that 12.5-foot gator. You got to be thinking, all right, this is a big boy I got to deal with, right? Like, this is a little bit different. You get a little, does fear ever kick in or what?
No, I'm scared of wasp.
Wasps you're scared of, but the 12.5-foot gator you're good with.
I'm not scared of that. I'm scared of wasp and bees. I'm terrified. Scream like a little girl and run the other way. Sorry.
To take out mailboxes that I have to.
I've knocked over a mailbox, a cast iron mailbox, completely broke it.
And we had to pay for it.
Yeah. No, 12-foot gator's not. No, you got to be careful with it, but no, it doesn't really. I know it can eat me, but
right.
That's no problem.
All right, but the wasp, he's a problem.
Okay. Yeah. But I pulled a 9.5-foot alligator out last week out of a pond. Just hand lined it, basically. Just threw the bait out in the water until it got interested in me.
Okay.
And I called it over, just mimicking baby gators. When it got kind of out there, and when it got close to the edge, I just kind of dropped the hook and line with the chicken on it at the bank and just backed away, come out and ate it. Then I just drug it out of the water and tied it up, threw it in the truck.
Can we get video of you making baby alligator sounds?
The guy got video of it. There was a guy videotaping it. I make I mimic baby raccoons, whatever gets the job done.
Is this part of training, by the way? Are we training people how to make sounds?
Absolutely.
It is.
Really?
Yes, it is. It is part of training, believe it or not.
Wow. Okay. So what does training look like as a franchisee?
So they come to our location here in Houston, and it's 2 parts. So obviously they need to know the operations of the office, the software, the QuickBooks, right? Because if your back office is a mess, you don't really have a business. If your financials and all that. So they train there. The field part of it is that they ride with Brian because he handles all the specialty jobs, and he's obviously knows all the ins and outs of it. Then other days they'll be with one of our senior technicians. So they'll see what it's like to run calls and do regular inspections and things like that.
Exclusions and stuff. They'll go with my exclusion team, and they'll learn how to seal up homes and stuff like that. You learn everything from top to bottom.
So they're here at least 2 weeks, sometimes longer. And again, oftentimes they'll come and go several times, and then, we'll get them equipped.
Interesting. Who's the best kind of franchisee? Is it somebody like you, Josie, who has more of the business, or somebody more like Brian that's the hands-on and is the actual trapper?
It's an excellent question. Our most successful offices are a husband and wife team or a partnership. It doesn't have to be husband and wife, but if they have someone that's administrative, that can run that back office, that can learn the phones and train, and then they have somebody like Brian who's out in the field, who's passionate, doing the job, who's knowledgeable, they are their success rate's about 99%.
Wow. Wow.
One with good organizational skills and good business skills. You can work a one-man show for a little while, but after a little while, you start getting busy. You really need someone in the office taking the calls, because it's difficult to take a call when you're pulling in a 10-foot gator on a line, or you're on a 40-foot ladder sealing up a house for bats. It's hard to take a phone call, and every phone call is important. Every customer is important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see somebody getting in their own way that like loves the idea of the wildlife removal, but is forgetting that this is a business first.
That's right.
And then the passion is next, but you've got to have the business. Otherwise they can't get out of their own way. They're gonna stall out if they love the wildlife removal part of the business only, and they think that that's what it's about.
Or they get a call from the state that says you haven't paid your sales and use tax in 6 months. We're shutting you down.
And like, what is that?
Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What's the investment range to open a franchise?
So depending on, we base it based off territory, right? So, if you buy an office, population and territory size. So your range is anywhere from, 60 to 150,000, depending on, their territory size and what they get at startup and things like that.
Okay. And how big is the territory population?
They range. So what we try to do is sell territory sizes that are going to be set up for success, right? So you're looking at 500,000 up to 2 million, but we have smaller offices and we have large, obviously we're the Houston metro. So
what markets are you most excited about getting into that you're not in right now?
oh gosh, my favorite ones, Raleigh, North Carolina. I think it's
Jacksonville,
Florida. We, Miami, Orlando, Atlanta. Yeah, we have so many good locations available right now that if I could clone Brian and I, you know what I could do if I wasn't wearing all these hats and raising.
Hawaii.
Yeah, well, I'd love to live in Hawaii. I'll never forget. Anyway, I won't go into that. So Brian was in the Army and he got to choose duty station. And I said, please choose Hawaii. And he said, there's not a lot of hunting and fishing there, so no. So we
No, it wasn't going to happen.
Kentucky and Louisiana.
Oh, Kentucky's great. Beautiful.
It is beautiful. It is. What's something that you guys have learned during this whole franchise process of being a franchisor that maybe was something you weren't expecting?
Well, I think for me is the managing of people, that those are real people. We really are very family oriented. And when we started this, almost sometimes a little too attached, I mean, when they hurt, we hurt. When their kids are sick, we've had offices go through divorce. We've had offices, last year, we lost 2 to cancer, and 1 had already retired, but they were still part of our family. And so that part of it to me was the part that, when they call you and say, life's hard right now, you don't think about that as part of business, but it really is. They do become an extension of your family. We do an annual conference every year where we do training.
It's like a family reunion.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. Where do you guys see taking this brand over the next 5-10 years?
Wow. So right now we're, like I said, 21 offices. We want to add, 4 to 5 offices each year over the next, 4 to 5 years more if we can. The beautiful thing about our franchise is we have so many available just beautiful markets that are still available, because of the rebranding and things like that. Sometimes you'll inquire about a franchise and it's very saturated. And sometimes that's hard for somebody that wants to get into it because they're trying to squeeze off an area or carve out something. But we have some really great territories.
Have you guys noticed over the past maybe 10 years that you've been franchising that the type of person looking to buy a franchise has changed?
I think so. You get, used to be, you get, I hate to say it, but more bubbas looking to get into catching. I want to catch animals.
Right, trappers.
But now people are starting to understand that this is an actual business. And so you're getting people that are a little more educated, that want to run a business and want to do well. They want to start something for a legacy for their family. So you're starting to see, I hate to say it, but better quality applicants.
Sure.
That's tough to think about, but it is what it is.
This also could be a great add-on business opportunity for folks that are already out in the home services, right?
Absolutely. Gutters, different things like that, roofing, those, we go hand in hand, really.
Right now, are you looking for only single unit operators, or are you open to multi-unit franchisees?
Yeah, we are definitely open to that. Yep.
And right now, everybody, you have 21 offices. Is anybody a multi-unit operator now?
Yes, we have probably a handful that will, and that's always their goal when they come in. They ask, is that an option? Is that a possibility? And it absolutely is. It takes great organization and it takes great leadership and business skills that some people have to kind of hone. And we tell them, don't get too let's perfect this. But yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Once they get in, they start looking, wow, I can grow this. Is this territory? Yeah, that territory is open. Hey, that's my next one. And they will jump, and it works well for them. We have some offices doing very well.
And Brian, if I was a franchisee, what would you expect of me in terms of me hiring techs out there in the field? How many do I typically hire, and what does an office look like in terms of their staff?
Usually the office will start out one person, or a husband and wife team. And so they'll get running. And I usually tell my offices, when you get so busy, when you're working 7 days a week and you just can't take any more work on, it's time to grow. And I learned that personally. I was working 7 days a week. On Sundays, I would get up and go to church in my work clothes. Right after church, I would leave to go to work, and my family would go do the rest of the day, and I would go to work the rest of Sunday. And I was just busy 7 days a week. And so we hired someone. And then once we got busy to where that we could buy another truck, because I put that person in the truck with me, and we could double our time. And once we got to where we were getting a lot of work, I moved on and bought another truck, put him in there, hired another person to ride in the truck. And then we had 2 trucks on the road and 3 people. And it just grew like that. When you can't handle the work anymore, hire somebody, but don't hire somebody till you can't handle the work.
Until you really need it. And what about training? If I was a franchisee, I'm a business guy. I don't really know much about wildlife removal, but I think this is a great opportunity. Do you guys train my field staff?
Absolutely.
I can, yes. If they want to send them down to me, I do that. And I always tell our offices, every office is different. Now, my exclusion work that I do on the homes in my area are completely different, say in Tampa or out in California, because the homes are made differently. And so I tell them, once you get out there, you may see something different. So the training is reciprocal. I'll get training from them that'll help me later. California office, when they got out there, they were like, whoa, we don't even do anything kind of like what you do. And I said, well, can I come out there and see what you do? Absolutely. So I went out to California and did a little training over there and learned something from over there. So it's different, and you just got to stay on top of the training on where you're at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet. What kind of legacy do you guys want to leave with this brand someday?
No, I talked enough.
Well, we want to leave something that, our brand is very important to us. We watch, believe it or not, one of the biggest things we do is we watch reviews for the offices. So when Brian and I first came into the Houston territory as franchisees, there were, I think, 1 or 2 maybe competitors. That's it. So we came in, we built from the ground up, and we have prided ourselves on, we are a very well-known brand that stands for quality. Right? We don't rip people off. A few years ago, one of the competitors started this whole campaign of attic clean outs with scare tactics. And we've just stayed true to our brand and to honesty and to treating our customers the way that we would want to be treated. So I guess the legacy would be that throughout whatever happens in the future is that this brand, whether we're in Alaska or North Carolina, it doesn't matter, that they're taking care of their customer, they're doing honest, fair work, and for a good price, right? We are a business, but that's my heart, and I think Brian's as well, is that we have a reputable brand that is, has a good reputation.
Sure. There's 2 reasons why I love this business. Number 1, I love competing in fragmented industries. You're competing against mom and pop businesses that you're able to, like I said, you professionalize this and you can market it better and provide a phenomenal service that's consistent from location to location. And number 2, it's recession resistant.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We got real busy during COVID. Real busy. Yeah, because people were saying, and they were like, I hear noises. And we were just really busy during that time.
I'll tell you, 2 times since we've owned this business, we moved down here as franchisees in the summer of 2007 or 2008. And that was right as the housing crisis hit, if you'll remember. And 2008 was a very hard year. We grew, and And I will tell you this, I give all glory to God on that, right? We are very blessed and God has blessed our business. But yes, COVID, we were considered an essential business. And so we have just grown every year. And so, like you said, you have a rat in your attic or a snake in your kitchen or
a cobra,
or an alligator, you're still going to call us basically.
Yeah, the thing is, I always tell people we're a specialty company, especially people looking at franchise, because there's a lot of business, a lot of pest control companies out there that deal with, they also will sideline in wildlife. I'm a specialty company. I have a pest control license for the state of Texas. I don't do bugs. I specialize in wildlife. That's all I do every single day. I don't have another job. This is it. That's what that's what sets me above other companies, because I don't do anything else. I only do wildlife. Any type, doesn't matter what it is, wildlife. And I'm good at it.
Is there a regulation, Brian, in other states in order to be able to do this business?
Yes, sir. Every state's different.
Every state. So what does that even look like if I was a franchisee, say in Florida?
So Florida is very close to Texas on, pretty, I don't know, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but basically they don't have a lot of regulations. They're pretty friendly to the businesses versus Illinois, whole different ball game.
California.
Some
places are just tough, man.
What is it? Yeah. So what does it take in one of those tougher states to be able to do this?
For example, in California, to do any repair. So a big part of our big side of our business is the animal exclusion. You have rats or squirrels. We come in and we animal proof your home. That's the kind of the bulk of our business that we make the most money off of.
Okay.
And so in California, you can't do any repair over $500 without a contractor's license. You can't get a contractor's license unless you've worked under somebody for 2 years. You've got an apprentice. And then to get your contractor's license is crazy money. I mean, stupid money. So think about it. You want to start a business. You want to do animal exclusion. You got to go knock on somebody's door and go to a contractor. Hey, you put me under your license for 2 years?
It's difficult. In Texas, to get years ago, to do wildlife, you had to have a license, a certified pest control applicator license. You had to be certified through the
Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, structural pest control. And so as time went on, the laws changed on that. So now you're not required to have that license in so many ways, but there's a lot of things that you can't do if you don't have the license. Euthanize an animal, say, even if it's sick, you can't euthanize it without an actual license, animal control or a structural or Texas Park pest control license. So there's a lot of stuff, setting traps, kill traps, rat traps. You've got there's so many legal things. And that's what, when I get an app or a franchisee that comes in, we talk about it. We find out where they're wanting to go and stuff. So we start looking into the laws of where they're going to go and what they need. And we start working toward getting everything they need to do that.
Great. Josie, why is now a great time to be part of AAAC?
Well, I believe that this is a great time just because we're through the rebranding. We've got the software in place. Everything is just like a well-oiled machine. So there's no bumps in the road. We've been doing this now for several years. And so, and like I said, we're at a place where we're growing and then these great markets that are available. And we've got a great team in place. We've got Vincent, we've got Tanya in the office. And so we've got a great set of support. We basically have kind of bumbled down the bumpy road and now we're on smooth sailing.
That's fantastic. If someone was interested in learning more about the franchise opportunity, where would they go?
Yeah, wildlifefranchise.info.
All right, guys, I have one last question for you. I finish every podcast. I call it the franchise tip jar because the industry and franchising is just so generous with sharing of information, giving advice and tips and tricks and strategies. So I'm curious to ask you, if you had a friend that came to you and they were thinking of buying a franchise, being a franchisee of another brand, what would be a piece of advice that you would give them to making sure that they're making the right decision?
For me, it would be find something that you're passionate, something that you're going to be happy to do on a Saturday morning when it was your day off. If you're not happy at that, then I wouldn't even think about it. But if I've got to get up on a Saturday morning and go pull out a gator out of a pond, I'm pretty happy about that. I'm kind of proud of it. I love doing this stuff. On a Friday evening when everybody's going home for work and I'm going out to, pull a beaver out of a trap or something like that, I'm happy about that. I'm happy when I can help a customer get a dead animal out of their house because it just reeks so bad and they're so thankful. I'm passionate about helping people in what I do. So if you find something that you like to do like that, jump head first into that and do that.
For me,
Great advice.
It would be that you're joining a team that's got a family feel to it. Because if you go in and they're all about the numbers and not about the person, then that can sometimes be a struggle, because in the reality of it is we are people and we do have life and our children and things. And so make sure that they have an excellent support system and that the values are the same.
Wonderful. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun with this episode. Thanks so much for playing with me and sharing all your stories. I wish you all the best and continued success.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.